Alright guys, today's goal, the learner will understand how to translate and reflect trigonometric graphs. So we've been talking about how to vertically stretch them by changing the amplitude, but now we're also, we see the H, the K, and then the B as well. So B horizontally stretches or shrinks things, okay? So see, still step one, identify the amplitude. Still do the period as 2 pi divided by b. The shift is h, and the vertical shift is k, just like they always have been. It says draw the horizontal line y equals k. It's called the midline of the graph. So that's going to be like the new 0. Okay? The 5 key points by translating key points y equals a sine bx or y equals a cosine are h units, horizontally h units and vertically k units. So draw the graph. So let's take a look at our first one over here. Okay. So still identify A, identify B, identify H, identify K, find the period. So period equals 2 pi divided by b, so it's pi. The scale is then pi over 4, okay? So let's try to graph these now. Okay, so my scale is pi over 4. So pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi. Now, watch what they said. K is negative 2. So there's my new 0. Because it was shifted down 2. Now, the amplitude is 3. So A is 3. So that means count. 1, 2, 3 down, and 1, 2, 3 up. So there's the new minimum, and there's the new maximum. Okay? See how it just changed the 0? So now, normally, sine starts at 0, but it has a horizontal shift to pi over 2, so move it over to pi over 2. From there, since there was A was positive, not negative, there's no reflection. That means go up to the new maximum, back down to the 0 by the scale of pi over 4. That's why we make this, and it happened to fit. Okay, and then we got to go backwards. So it goes maximum to minimum, or to 0, now to the minimum. So make a point down here. And then back up to the 0. So there is our graph. Okay? So let's take a look at the next one, see what happens when we get this reflection that goes on. Okay, so identify A. A is negative 4, but the amplitude of that is 4. B, now watch what I have to do here. See how I factored out that 2? Factored out the 2 right here. It has to be factored out in order to be able to identify H and B. So I now know B is 2, H is negative pi over 2, K is 1. So if we go to make our graph now, we know K is positive 1, so that means make your new 0 at positive 1. And then we know that the amplitude was 4, so that means coming up 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's your new minimum and your new maximum. Now, cosine normally starts at the maximum, but see how this A was a -4? That means it's reflected over the y-axis. Sorry, over the x-axis. So instead of starting at the maximum, if I flip it over, it goes down to the minimum. And then it was shifted left by pi/2. So what do we still need to make? Our period is 2 pi divided by b, so it's pi. So we know our scale, from just like the last problem, is pi/4. So that's negative pi/2. That's positive pi/2. That lets me know the scale. So cosine starts at the max, but A was negative, so it's reflected down the minimum, and it's shifted to negative pi/2. Now the scale is pi/4, so that means go up. Oh, I keep wanting to go to the natural 0, but it's go up to the new 0, then to the max, down to the 0, back down to the min, and then go the opposite direction. 0, max. So there's our cosine, okay? So we have tangent now left to look at, okay? So here's our tangent function. So same steps. Identify A. Well, A is -1, but the amplitude is +1. So that means it's reflected, so we'll have to think about that. B is 2. Remember, if there's no parentheses, you put it around before you see the addition or subtraction. So it's like that. So it's already kind of factored because there's nothing to factor out. H is 0, so there was no left or right shift. K is -1. So all that means is the 0 got shifted down 1. Okay? So let's take a look at the graph. So remember, we had A was -1, B is 2, H is 0, K is -1. Now the period is pi divided by b, so it's pi/2. So the scale, pi/4, because remember you just have to divide it by 2. So that's positive pi/2. And that's negative pi/2. Okay? And then remember our new 0. Now, if you remember, the general shape of tangent was this. But if it's reflected over the x-axis, it's going to switch. So there was no horizontal shift, so we start at the 0. But instead of going up and to the right, and the scale is pi/4. So what that tells us is that's where the asymptotes are. But it's going to look like this instead. And then same thing, you'd be here, and it'd be going down this way. You'd be here, and it'd be going up this way. Okay? And that would still go on, and that would still go on. So there we go. See you guys tomorrow.